Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. This is the fifth episode in a series that we're doing on grit. And so just to give you a little background, a little reminder of why we're doing this series on grit. The idea is, I think during the COVID era, it's been difficult for a lot of people in multiple ways. Emotionally, financially in some cases, business, health-wise, stress-wise, politically. There's like all the major things in life have been more difficult for a lot of people. And I think as we kind of pull through COVID and we look back, we might see some things that maybe our health has gone downhill a little bit. Obviously, as a healthcare provider, I look through the lens of health quite a bit. And certainly with my patient population, a lot of people have, sort of discussed with me that their, diet, has kind of gone downhill during COVID. Maybe their exercise hasn't been as good. Gyms closed, so they didn't exercise. Maybe their stress went up and they started consuming more alcohol, and different things kind of affected their lives. And to get back on track is kind of hard. Maintaining a New Year's resolution, that's kind of hard. And then maybe in a kind of different context, maybe some opportunities showed up for some people during COVID, and maybe they want to start a new business. Sticking in with, kind of the beginning and starting a new business is kind of hard. So this kind of grit practice skills that we're talking about can be applied to multiple aspects of your life. But obviously, I'm thinking of things through a healthcare lens, and I'm seeing a lot of people who are wanting to kind of take their health back, and they're realizing that by maintaining their health, they could decrease the chance of developing, maybe a worsening outcome with COVID. But also we know that certain risk factors are increasing during the COVID period. Obesity is really skyrocketed. Diabetes really skyrocketed. A lot of people put on the back burner certain health checkups. So maybe they're at a greater risk for heart disease or something like that. And so to get your kind of health back and maybe to do something else that takes a little extra effort, these grit skills are a good way to something good to kind of apply to your daily practice, so that you could have a greater chance of achieving whatever goal that you have. So we went through 4 prior grit skills, and today is the 5th one, and this is the grit to train your weaknesses. And this is kind of a hard one because they're your weaknesses. They're your weaknesses for a reason. You don't like, approaching these particular things. This could be physical, this could be emotional, this could be cognitive, or maybe all 3. A good place to start with, what your weaknesses are that you need to work on, because sometimes we're kind of blind to our weaknesses. We don't know that they are our weaknesses. And so oftentimes you might want to ask people, hey, give me 3 things that you think are my greatest weaknesses, and really kind of be open to learning what those are so that you can improve on them. That's the whole point. It's not to kind of bash yourself. It's actually an empowering exercise so that you could take the important steps to improve on those weaknesses. And we have different weaknesses in different domains of our life. You might have to talk to a family member. You might have to talk to a colleague. You might have to talk to a friend. In each of these domains of our life, we might, express different weaknesses. So however you want to approach that, maybe you want to start with one and just work on that. However you want to do it, it's just the idea is, as we want to move into being better at whatever it is, whether, like I said, you're starting a business and you want to do something hard in that way, or you're trying to achieve some improvement in your health, going through these grit skills are only going to make it easier and easier and easier to perform when things get more and more difficult. So the idea is that you want to understand what the weakness is and take little baby steps in order to improve that. Like an example might be, let's say you talk to a colleague and the colleague says, you don't delegate enough. You try to do everything yourself and it bogs you down, and you can't get enough done because there are some things that you should be delegating for other people, and you sort of have control issues and you're trying to do it all yourself. So it's a weakness for you to delegate that thing, and you want to have kind of control over whatever that aspect of your job is, but it's going to be better and you're what the colleague is suggesting, that you're going to have, kind of cover more topics or get more done if you delegate some of the more simple things that other people can do just as good as you could. Or maybe you over delegate. That could be just kind of the flip side of it. Maybe you don't keep enough on your desk, and everything that comes in, you're just delegating to other people. And so either way, those could be weaknesses that you have to, sort of face, so that you could start to understand that it, first of all, is a weakness, and then something that you can try to get better at. Another one might be socially. Some people might, this might be on kind of the emotional side or on the cognitive side of things. Some people are like social butterflies. They spend a lot of their time in the presence of other people, and they don't take enough time for maybe introspection. Maybe they're a little bit afraid to kind of listen to their own thoughts or spend some time, just kind of by themselves, and to just kind of, spend quiet time alone. And they're always, social, getting out there too much and spending too much time. And that's really where they kind of feel like they get their strength, is socializing too much. So somebody might say that, that's maybe a weakness for them. And then there's a flip side of that. Maybe some people are too sort of introvert and not social enough. I see this one a lot. I see a lot of people they might be near other people, but they are not striking up a conversation where, 20, 30 years ago, people were, randomly striking up conversations with what would otherwise be strangers. So the weakness would be, and the challenge would be, that sometime today or this week, you initiate a conversation with a stranger. And that could be one of those steps toward working on that particular weakness. So there's a whole bunch of, we all have weaknesses, and they're weaknesses for a reason, because they're difficult. If doing one of these things is a weakness for you, it's hard, and there's no real kind of shortcut to it. But there is a reason why these grit skills are in a particular sort of order, because it's difficult to start off the skill of, okay, I'm going to work on my weaknesses today, but you didn't go through the kind of sequence of events. You didn't first work on your grit of perseverance. That's kind of the first one that we talked about. And then we talked about the grit to control your thoughts. And then we talked about the grit to master your fear. And then in the most recent episode, we talked about the grit to be your best when you're at your worst, because inevitably you're going to be fatigued, you're going to be unmotivated, and you want to be able to, develop the skills to show up, to function, even when you're not feeling your best. And so this one today, the grit to train your weaknesses, is kind of, should be done in a certain sequence, because this one takes, kind of the whole passion and purpose, those internal motivators. That's not going to really work here. This is kind of a white knuckle situation, which is why this is a great quote from Stephen Kotler: learn to love slow progress, because that's the idea here. This is not the grit skill that you're going to overcome and really conquer in a couple weeks. This could be months, and in some cases years, to really overcome these weaknesses. This is something that, is difficult. There are weaknesses for a reason. We don't like to do them. But if you, look at the literature of people who have done really difficult things, they're almost all at some point working on the things that they're not good at, working on what their weaknesses are. So that's what this grit skill really speaks to. So you have to be patient with it, you have to white knuckle through it, and you have to take baby steps, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. And this particular skill is a really key one to work on. So hopefully that's helpful. This is the 5th out of 6 grit skills that we're going to talk about. So we'll bring you the 6th one next time. I will keep reading the studies and bringing you the information. Until then, keep it real.